pumpkin pies for your clients, or maybe an annual barbecue for a client appreciation, or maybe even you're hosting a whole slew of curated events. Almost every advisory firm hosts events for their clients, and they admit that while their clients may love them, they don't really get any referrals from them. Or they may sheepishly admit to us that they've tried to create events to drive referrals and almost maybe no one came. Or maybe you're a firm or person who feels like trying to get referrals from an event is a weird bait and switch moment. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode number 6 of the New School podcast. In this episode, I'm going to cover how to create a meaningful event strategy that deepens engagement and actually drives referrals. And spoiler effect, it's all about thinking micro, high touch, experiential, and only for your best clients and COIs. And in this episode, I'm excited because I am joined by the event expert, Matt Middleton, the founder of Future Proof. Maybe you've been to one of the beach festivals or one of the other events. You know that these are events that create connection, that are super different, super innovative. So he's going to share his perspective on how he thinks about events. So I think about this as a masterclass with him on here. So it's pretty cool. So who's this episode relevant to? It's relevant to you whether you're a firm that's sub 500 million in AUM all the way up to mega RAs, 20 billion plus, because those are our clients. That's the makeup of our clients, and we use these same frameworks. This episode is for you if you want to accelerate client and COI referrals, and maybe you've been hosting events and you're not getting the results that you want. In this episode, I'm going to cover why events. So we'll talk about do you need to host events? Let's talk about why events. What is a micro event? So it sounds fun and fancy, but what actually is it? I'll give you some examples of micro events that we've seen our clients host really successful to kind of get the juices flowing and paint a picture. I'll give you a detailed action plan on how to think about it and execute, and then how to follow up. So really tactical, really orientated around driving connection and a business outcome of that, deeper relationships, referrals, and clients and COIs that just love everything you do and send you business. So let's kick it off with why events. So I think I've already said it in this episode so far, but really, if we think about events, what is the purpose of them? We're talking about in-person events. It can be virtual events, but really when we're thinking about events, we're talking about in-person events. And so I think the way to think about it is, if when we were in COVID, for example, and there were no in-person gatherings, we did a lot of virtual stuff. We tried to stay connected. And then we got out into the real world post-COVID, and we started going to industry events or other events. And we started to see our coworkers and our team members in person. And I think we all had the experience of, although digital was so helpful and important in creating connection, that something is lost when we're not in that in-person experience. We don't pick up on cues as easily. It's like we like people more than we had anticipated. I know that's funny, but you see their sense of humor, their body language. There's an energy and a sense of connection that is somehow more magnified and deeper when we're in person with someone. So when we think about creating an event, we think about the top 10% of your clients. I think you've heard me say that through each episode, but the ones that you love working with, that value what you do. And if you clone them and all your future clients look with them, you'd have a wildly profitable and viable business. The truth is, you love working with them. You want to have them as clients forever. You want to serve them as best you can. And authentic connection and relationship building is key. So that's really the why. You're developing these deeper relationships and connections. Also an opportunity for your COIs to deepen connection with you and some clients and see firsthand the transformation that you create for clients. At the highest level, then the business outcomes are those deepened relationships and connection. And we know the advisor-client relationship is all about that relational perspective. They could work with anyone. There's a reason they work with you. A shared experience, and as Nat says, creating memorable moments where you're creating an environment for unsolicited referrals. So I had the opportunity to speak to Matt. Let's find out what he says about how he thinks about building events, why he built Future Proof, and why he sees events as an important component in your overall marketing strategy.
And so for us, it was very much of, well, let's just start at the event layer. All of the events in the industry that we participate in, which is a lot. If you look at the latest Kitsis calendar, they all look and feel the same. And so for us was, well, if we want to put into the position that the firm of the future is different, well, why don't we make the event of the future actually different too? And so everything from the name of calling it Future Proof to the entirely outdoor setting to the outside the traditional trade show floor and controlled setting where we take you to this keynote room and then you go to this track and then you have an hour for lunch. It feels like you're either in prison or back in school, and we're all adults here. And so we wanted to basically unwrite the norms of the event industry as it relates to, the larger wealth and asset management space. And in doing so, we hope that we could allow people or create a parallel to the individuals who attend to say, I always do it this way, but do I actually have to do it? Or is that just what the industry standard is?
So if you're listening to Matt and I know that I was like so impressed. I'm like, okay, I got it. Like we got to have events. So we've talked about why events. So we're talking about connection, especially in a space and in a business where relationships and trust are so key and important. And now we're going to talk about, well, why micro events and what is a micro event? So when we think about the events that advisors typically have, they're usually client appreciation events, or maybe they're curated dinners or something like that. They are created to give an experience to your clients to say, we appreciate you, we value you. That's usually the intention. When we think about a micro event, what we're talking about is really deepening connection with your best clients. So we think about micro events as under 12 people, so smaller groups, really experiential. So one way to think about this is, for example, if someone reached out to me and they said, Candace, we're doing this lunch. We're going to have this guru from India talk about meditation and the impact it can have on your life. There's going to be this organic farm to table chef that's going to make the lunch. And there's going to be other women like you there. That is a very enticing invitation. However, I'm working a lot. So what I have to think about is, it's a Friday in the middle of the day. I have to drive there and then I'm there for lunch and then I have to drive back. And even though all the things that make up that event are appealing to my passions and interests, it feels, it's not something where I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to be there, clear my calendar. Versus an experiential event that may look like something like this. Candace, this guru from India has come here to the States, and we are going to host with them this all-day experiential event. We're going to wake up, we're going to meditate on the beach to the sunrise. There's going to be a gong. There's going to be people doing Reiki later in the day. Then we're going to have this farm to table chef who has helped people with their illnesses talk about the power of food, and you're going to eat it. And in the afternoon, we're then going to do this wellness hyperbaric chambers and cold plunge and sauna vibe. And then in the evening, we're going to complete it with these non-toxic alcohol-free cocktails that I think you're going to love. And we're going to send you home with a cocktail mix. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to clear my calendar. That sounds amazing. I have to be there. And by the way, it's going to be with other career-focused women passionate about wellness in different areas of business that I think you're going to love talking to. Yes, that is what we're talking about with micro events. Something experiential, not something that's small, but something that your clients and your COIs are like, oh my goodness, clear my calendar. I am going to be there. So micro event, less than 12 people. You're going to be inviting your best clients. So the top 10% of your clients that reflect the type of clients you love working with, they value what you do and you want to clone. It's going to be super experiential. We're going to talk about how you create that experience, and that's going to weigh in on it too. It's also going to be high touch. So there's this fear of like, okay, if I host an event, but what if no one comes? It's going to be so high touch. You're going to be consulting with your best clients and the attendees way ahead of time so that they feel so a part of building the experience, so collaborative in the experience. There's no ways they're not going to be there. So what high touch looks like, instead of just deciding what it is and sending out invitations, you're actually finding out what the passions and interests of your best clients are. You're reaching out 4 to 6 months in advance and you're saying, you know what, I'm thinking about having this event for clients like you because I love working with you. And I think it would be fun. And also I'd love to introduce you to these other people. What do you think about this idea? Then once you start to get that idea rolling, you're going to check back in a month and say, okay, these are the dates I'm thinking based on what we talked about and some feedback. This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Would this date work for you? And they're going to say yes or no. Then you're going to continue to touch base with them. You're going to be calling them. You're going to say, okay, we're like 2 months out. This is, I'm going to connect you on group email and group chat to these other people there. You're a month out. Hey, we have some spare tickets for this if you'd like to invite 1 or 2 other people that you think would love this as well. Okay, so I'm already starting to lay out an action plan for you, but I want to paint the picture of how high touch it's going to be and how different that is from maybe the annual barbecue that you host once a year where you invite all your clients to and they love it and all their family members and all your team brings their family members. It's like a beautiful event, but this is quite different, right? So you're going to engage your best clients all along the way. There's no ways they're not going to show up, okay? So you can just remove that fear. I think the last point, which is the essential point, is, as I mentioned, you're going to curate and create this event on the passions and interests of your best clients, right? So you're going to get super clear on what is it that would be I have to clear my calendar and be their type of event. So we've got Matt Middleton talking about how he would think about creating a micro event. And then right after, I'm going to join you with some examples, real life examples of what we've seen firms actually execute and implement.
Yeah, look, and I think you could have a memorable event experience with 3 people. And then you could have a memorable event experience with 20,000 people, right? Mm-hmm. I think the core kind of philosophy remains the same. First one, which everyone gets wrong, is it's not about you. Meaning it's not about you who are throwing it, right? If you're in a company that is throwing it, it's like, we're going to put our brand everywhere and we're this and we're that. And you forget the purpose of why you're doing that event. Even in, just translate that to big industry events. You see a lot of industry events that get success, like they'll grow like Future Proof. And then it's like, you start seeing them beating their chest and this is that and that. Like I always say, and I'm often saying this to folks, like, I just get to be the face of this. Like I'm a steward of a community building event. Like the community is shaping this. And you said something very important when we were, not recording, which was the simple thing to do is just ask, right? You used it as a questionnaire. It's like these basic questions. I think the obvious thing is just generate that feedback and action it. There's not like this, everyone thinks like, oh, this event visionary and this thing. It's like, no, from year 1 to year 2, the improvements we made and the innovations we had was just listening to feedback, good and bad, and actually putting it to action. And so, if I had like 3 things that I would say to people that are thinking about building micro events, large scale events, what have you, it's don't make it about you and never forget that. 2, what is the purpose of it? So that creates the experience and the connection points, right? So what I mean by that is when you think about what is the purpose, most people are like, oh, the purpose is lead gen. No, that's a byproduct of a great experience, right? What it is, why do these people need to gather together? What is the purpose? And so that's usually in this case, let's like taking it, if I was an RIA firm, let's take it as an example, right? I would think about not about me. So what do I like? That might determine where I host it. No. Survey people, right? And that may be if it's a client event, what do people like to do? What's their hobbies, their interests, their lifestyle, right? And most people either focus on a certain type of person or a certain profession, so that should be easy. Next piece is once you've landed on like conceptually, what is that? Where's the location? What's it going to be? What are people looking for, right? what do people hope to get out of it? And that helps to create, if you can, whether again, it's a 3-person event or a 30,000 person event, is a transformational moment, right? When people say transformation, it's like, oh, it's fluff. But truly with events, if you do it right, you have someone's undivided attention for a period of time in this group experience. You could quite literally transform them, either sensory through the experiences, right? Their sight, sound, their smell, right? Through this moment at the event, or you could transform their thinking. I came into it with this and I'm leaving with that. And that's based on education and other, collaborative ways to learn.
Okay. So I think the most important thing that Matt said there was leading with your who. So you're making it all about that target client. If you listen to episode 1 and then some of the other episodes, you know that I'm having a little bit of fun and being playful, talking about my best client being Bob, just because it's simple and easy. So if it were me and I was starting out, and we do this with all of our clients when they come in the door, it's like really surveying them and finding out what their passions and interests are. And I'm not talking about an email survey, an NPS score where you send it to everyone. I'm talking about intentional phone calls and saying, I love working with you. You're a client I love working with. I'd love to find out a little bit more about you because we're thinking about creating some event strategies. So you want to find out what they're passionate about. As Matt said, if they're passionate about voting, that may be an event. So I'll share some creative examples to kind of get the juices flowing. But one of our clients, large amount of success in day hunting trips. Okay. So they go out and they hunt. So I live in Southern California right now. So this wouldn't be relevant to me or the types of advisors that are potentially around here, but regionally where this firm is based, the type of clients they serve, it's relevant. Okay. So I just say that because it's super specific and I think it paints a really clear picture. Another example could be, we had this client that focused on engineering executives. And when they spoke to those engineering executives, their clients, they found out that those clients, and no surprise here, are really intellectual. Their jobs are all about their minds. And so what they discovered is in their spare time, they like to do things that move them into their bodies and are with their hands. And so what they start to realize is they love things like pottery and gardening. So they start to create some events around that activity, that passion. Another client had end clients who kind of love to push the envelope, love to expand what's possible in their life. And then they discovered are a little bit of adrenaline junkies. And so their idea was to have, I don't know if you've seen it, where they have these race tracks where you can actually go and race Porsches, as a non-professional driver. So all day, Porsche racing event, and then dinner. So that might be really relevant. And by the way, it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be super targeted to your best client. So I'll give you an example of a non-fancy one. An advisor said that he lived, I think he was up in Idaho somewhere. And he said one of the things that he discovered was his clients are really passionate about wine. They love wine, but also they love the outdoors and hiking. And so he created this event where he would actually go get his clients, put them in his car, pick them, they'd say, meet here. He would drive them out. They would hike and they would search for gems and stones and rocks. Okay. I don't know the details of this, maybe because I don't live there and I'm in Southern California, but you can just imagine. He said his clients loved it. He would then put them back in the car, drive them back to his house. So he would host them at his house and he would actually create necklaces or pendants from the rocks that they collected, and while serving them wine from his favorite winery. He said clients raved about it. Okay, so maybe these sound a little bit on the fringe maybe, or a little bit different, but that's the point. It's experiential. Another one that may sound a little bit more closer to home is a sponsored booth at events around professional golf tournaments. So we had end clients say, we don't really want to go play golf with our advisor, but if our advisor was, curating a group of us that were super interested in, and we had a booth and we could talk about it and we could see the players, that would be an exceptional experience. So imagine having that type of experience with your financial advisor. It's pretty incredible. And then other people who are other clients that you can connect with. You start to see that there's a network effect here, community. Another example is if you are an advisor, and this was an example serving professional women, it was a day experience of Reiki, high-end spa experience, a stylist consult, and organic cooking class, right? So something experiential, high vibe, really aligned with their passions and interests. All right, so I feel like we've covered quite a lot, but we're getting to the essence of everything essentially. So we've covered why events. We've covered what is a micro event. I've talked about some examples of micro events, and maybe this is getting the juices flowing. But again, like what Matt and I say, just ask your clients. I think that people can perceive innovation or creativity as like something that just not for them, that something only belongs to certain people. But in my experience, and Matt was saying the same, it's really about solving a problem differently. And how do you begin there? By listening to people. So really honing in on the bobs of your firm and finding out what their passions and interests are. By the way, you should be tracking this as well. So let's talk about your action plan, all right? So this is going to be super simple, and I'm going to cross-reference our micro event playbook that we use with all of our clients. So the first thing is you have to identify the top 10% of your clients. So who are they? Who are the Bobs of the world? We've given you the criteria a few times. I've given it to you in some of these episodes. You then want to identify less than 12 people that are like Bob that you feel would be really great people to invite to this event. You would deepen that connection. And if they were to make referrals for more people like them, you would want those. Okay, so you're going to do them. The second thing is once you've identified, you're gonna reach out and you're gonna ask them about their interests and passions. And so it's quite like what I said earlier. It feels like so simple, but simple doesn't mean it's easy, right? Because you might listen to it and then not do anything, or I think it's too simple that it's not going to work. It works, okay? So just know that. So once you've identified them, you need to understand their interests and passions. So you reach out. I'm thinking about creating an event for clients like you. I'd love to know what you're doing on the weekend, some of the things you're really passionate about and interested in, so I could potentially create an event for you and people like you. Would you like to have that conversation? Of course, they're going to be like, yes. I mean, who wouldn't want to have that conversation? So you're going to find out what it is. Then you're going to brainstorm some ideas. So if they said voting, you're going to be like, we're going to have this voting event. We're going to do these things. This is where I think it's good, what it's going to look like. And then step by step, really, really simple. This is the high touch experience. In an ideal scenario, you're planning at least 2 micro events a year to start. And then maybe you're moving to 1 a quarter. If you have lots of advisors in your firm and they're responsible for client referrals, retention, as well as new clients, I would have them do this too if you have an event budget, right? So really simple framework. They should be doing this with all of their clients. 4 to 6 months out, you want to share your event idea with top clients, right? So outbound call, it could be part of their meeting structure if there's enough time and you feel like it's appropriate and you're going to get the answers that you need and want. Typically, it's better to schedule a call outside of that. So 4 to 6 months out, I have this idea. We're thinking, I know that you just you went bungee jumping recently, that you watch Formula One. I was thinking about, taking a whole bunch of us to go race Porsches, the LA racetrack. I'm making that up. I don't even know if you can do that there. Okay. But we're going to do this. What do you think? What would make a memorable event for you? And if it was to take a whole day, what are some of the things I need to think about? Get some feedback. You're going to ask all of them. Then you're going to start to finalize the plan. 3 to 5 months out, you're going to book the event. You're going to get feedback on the venue and the date. And you're going to reach back out to those clients and you're going to personally invite them. So 3 months out you need to personally invite the clients via a phone call. And then you're going to follow up with a detailed email and an RSVP deadline. So this is an important step. So just because you've got initial buy-in at the beginning doesn't mean it's just simply time to send out electronic invites or even written hand note ones, which are beautiful. You still need to make the call and personally invite them. Hey, we discussed this idea. This is where I landed. I'd love to personally invite you. This is the date. Do you think you could make it? I'm going to follow up with details. Okay. Really, really personal. Have to make that call. A month out, you're going to make a call to remind them. Your assistants can help at this point if it's appropriate, right? And you might at this point actually open up the guest list if space allows. So maybe you were planning for 12 people, but you invited 8, so you've got space for 4. We'd recommend this. And you say a month out, hey, we've got a limited amount of additional seats or availability for people to come. If there's someone that you believe in your network that you'd love to invite or a friend that you'd like to bring out, if you could let us know in the next week, we can make sure that spot is reserved for them. Okay. So I think what's going on here, which I just want to point out and note, is you're inviting them to invite other people like them, which is a potential business and referral opportunity, but it's not in a weird salesy way. You've built this experience around your client, and now you're simply inviting them to bring additional people. 2 weeks out, you want to send a final email with updates and consider connecting them in a group. So a group email or a text if it's appropriate to say, okay, I'm going to connect you with everyone else that's going to be there 2 weeks out. So you're building this community, you're building this connection, you're building this trust and relationship. You've already demonstrated that you're listening to them, you're inviting them to invite other people. Already before you've had the event, you've got this incredible relationship building, deeper connection experience. And just remember, anyone could work with any financial advisor. There's a reason that they choose you. They want to develop this relationship with you. So it's really, really, really welcome. When you think about hosting the event, there's a lot that you can think about, right? You want to make sure that you are super present, you're greeting each guest. Maybe you've got some things that are fun as part of the experience, like a trophy in different categories or fun ones that you've made: the fastest driver, the best dressed, the person that was the most quiet, just kind of like fun elements that are appropriate to your event, right? So just being super present, talking to it. I think that this is an important point to say, like, this is not about talking shop, right? This is really about getting to know everyone, creating community and a connection. So you're not doing anything prior to the event or on the event of like selling your services. That's not the point, right? Again, this isn't an episode about how to ask for a referral. This is an ongoing conversation about how do you create an environment in your business and with the people where unsolicited referrals are a natural outcome, because you've got deepened engagement, connection, trust. And by the way, we're just taking for granted that you're doing a phenomenal job as a financial advisor. So that is happening, right? A second thing to think about is capturing the moments thoughtfully. So capture candid, natural moments. Maybe you have a photographer for a special event like the Porsche racing, but really thinking about how you can capture it, because you want to share those post the event. Also, some kind of fun branded takeaway, like a branded wine stopper or a yoga mat or golf ball tied to the event, just so they've got that memory in time. So not only the experience, they've got the photos, and then they've got something maybe fun tied to it, like the trophy or a branded yoga mat. So there's an opportunity where you can say, this was hosted by Com Partners, and now I've got my yoga mat. Okay, so that's an essential component. So far, I think we're getting into the details, and hopefully I haven't lost you, but we've talked about why events, what is a micro event, some examples, and an action plan. And I'm going to talk about like how to follow up. So what we'd recommend is within the first 48 hours post the event that you actually personally reach out to each guest and you thank them for attending. So again, high touch, experiential. You're going to say, hey, thank you so much for coming to that all day event. We had such a fun time. I just wanted to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Like, I really enjoyed this moment, or it seemed like you had a lot of fun about whatever. And then say, what did you think? Do you have any feedback on future events that I could host? And I'm thinking about another one in 6 months. Do you have any ideas? So now you're deepened gratitude. You're reconfirming your experience and validating it. And now you're setting up a future event. Note, nowhere did I say there, now you're trying to sell or offer your services, even for guests that weren't there. You can call them and thank them. There's no need to say, okay, now I'm starting to sell. Why? That's going to be a natural outcome of it, right? So within 48 hours, you can share a thank you. If it feels appropriate, you can share those photos via email. And even if it's more appropriate, you can put it on your social channels. So some firms will say, it's weird if I put it on my social channels because I didn't invite all my clients. That's okay. You could say it was a small curated event, or if it doesn't feel appropriate, that's fine. But you want some way to share those moments, right? You can continue that group text or email, and you want to make sure, and this goes back to other recommendations, that everyone who is invited is on your ongoing client communications list, that you're doing that personal outreach, that you're reconfirming their potential ideas for a future client, for a future event. And I think at this point, it's appropriate to say if they haven't come in for a meeting or they have, you know, that they need a meeting coming up, you can schedule it. But that will probably be a natural outcome or output of all of the events. So at the end of the day, even as I go through this, and I feel like maybe that's success, it's really simple. It's when you're thinking about events, you're thinking about creating memorable experiences for your best clients, driving deeper connection engagement, and as a natural outcome, accelerating referrals. Note, I didn't really talk about COIs, but based on the episode with Bev, you'll know we'd recommend inviting your best COIs to these events for all the reasons I covered: deeper connection, deeper understanding of who you are as a person, and the types of clients you serve as well. As we close out, I want to leave you, when I said to Matt, what is this really all about? I thought he had an excellent clip that we'll put in here. What is it actually all about?
But the reality it's that individual. And we see it all the time, because when people leave firms, their clients typically go with them once the legal stuff takes shape. And so, the genesis of building something like Future Proof is, one, how do we make our industry, right, wealth managers who are on the front lines, either trying to recruit more clients, making them aware of their services, or simply managing the existing clients, how do we make them more culturally aware, right? And so when we landed with this, it was like the intersection of pop culture and finance. Everyone laughed because they're like, oh, at that time it was, that's when we had like the meme market movement, and we had crypto was going crazy. And so we were just like thrown into that wild times. But at the core, it really was just, how do we better connect our industry first and foremost, because that's the nature of our event, based on their hobbies, interests, and lifestyle. And so we brought in music through a concert. We had art activations. We brought in food trucks, and we did food demonstrations, right? All of these different things that are very sensory, but as a group could create memorable moments. And I think that is, if you could create the parallel to, the people that will be listening to this, is how do you create memorable moments with your existing clients or new prospects, so that when the time comes for them to make a decision, either because there's a life of event or they're maybe even in a transitional moment, how do they remember you, your brand, and what that feeling was when they shared that with you? And that's likely they'll probably make a decision to work with you.
Thanks for listening to The New School. If you found this really valuable, please subscribe, follow. We always wildly appreciate a review. And if you haven't yet checked out The Growth Leaders of Wealth Management, it's a podcast hosted by our CEO, Meg Carpenter. This season on The New School was all about supporting you in driving organic growth in our framework, sharing them one-to-one in this consulting vibe conversation. The Growth Leaders of Wealth Management are all about top firms across our industry, sharing how they drove organic growth in their firms. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.